Welcome back to Gully. Not an awful lot going on in the world of cricket from an Indian and Pakistani point of view, I guess. At least on the face of it. Obviously, there's some dialogues going on in the background about the Champions Trophy. I know some of you in the comments had some very strong opinions last time. Keep them coming. I don't believe most of you. I won't say who, but only time will tell who is right and who is wrong. But I'm sure some of you have some insights in the BCCI and the ICC, unlike us mere mortals who can only speculate about what's going to happen. I've got Moin here with me. We won't talk much about these speculations and stuff because there's no point. But maybe we'll speak about the real cricket that's actually been going on over the last couple of weeks, which is the England West Indies series, and obviously Jimmy Anderson retiring. Pay some tribute to him, but most importantly, see if he's actually an overrated bowler, an underrated bowler. Is he fairly rated? Is he the GOAT of fast bowling, 700 wickets and all? Or is it just a bit of volume of matches equals volume of wickets? So, Moin, should we start with first the England West Indies Test series? On the face of it, England have won quite comfortably, but West Indies have not laid down pretty much. They have shown a bit of fight.
Yeah, usually impressive, especially the Trent Bridge game. I mean, when you're staring down the barrel after having conceded 400 runs, I can think of so many teams that would capitulate. I think they were excellent, especially after losing those early wickets, which, by the way, were all to atrocious shots. I mean, Brathwaite or all these players had got their eye in, at least two of the three did, and they just threw it away, right? Senseless batting. But that partnership was almost heroic, right? I mean, they got the West Indies a lead, which I thought, yes, okay, it was only 30. They could have got a little more if they hung on, but still, that was a fabulous effort. And I have to give credit to England's mental strength and fortitude, right? Because when you're in a position of strength for so long and you concede it, it can be quite demoralizing, right? And there's a very quick turnaround between innings, and it can tell on you. I can recount multiple instances of other teams that would in that position capitulate in the third innings. But I thought England held their nerve and they felt, you know what, West Indies did it once, can they do it again? And the answer was no, right? England piled on the runs and said, over to you, West Indies, see what you can do. And unfortunately, again, despite some decent starts at the top of the order, I do think that top order of the West Indies is hugely talented, but they just couldn't see it through. And, credit to Shoaib Bashir. I know many people are talking about talking about him because it's been a while since England have had like a really, really strong spinner, right? They had Jack Leach, they had, a few others that would, in some ways, dare I say, make up the numbers. They would be the attacking option. Yeah. But now with Broad having retired and Anderson now retired, I think you need to look beyond just your fast bowlers to get you wickets. And so I think Shoaib Bashir's rise comes at a very opportune time for them.
Yeah, I think that's part of the issue now with this new, pace bowling kind of attack of England. Atkinson had a really good test match, but Mark Wood again, he's good, but he can be expensive. I think so. That control that Broad and Anderson did give England, where they used to go for 2 and over, in some cases 1.5 and over. Apart from obviously the wicket taking options, but they were actually really good at controlling the runs. We'll come on to that later as well about Anderson's stats and all. But I think they kind of they do need spinners who can take wickets. Again, Jack Leach was good, but I think he was also made better with the attack that he had around him. So I completely agree. I think it's going to be interesting to see. But again, it is the West Indies, a very inexperienced West Indies. I mean, most of these batters, I'm sure not a lot of people would know about. Their test team is completely different from what we saw in the T20 World Cup. So I think that there's a bit of that as well, where it's so inexperienced and it's very difficult for an inexperienced team to come in and perform in England. 2 innings, they got to 401 innings. That was a big achievement on its own. But yeah, I think even if they were chasing like 250, 260, I think that would have been a tough ask in any case, let alone 400 all over again.
Yeah, and look, and let's be honest. Look, Trent Bridge, yes, the ball moves around, but remember, the the boundaries are really small, right?
Yeah.
I know we only make that point in T20 cricket as if they become much bigger in tests. No, they don't. It's the
It's the
exact
same.
same ground, the exact same dimension. So
Yeah.
if anything, actually, it's quite helpful in Test cricket because it just dilutes some of the momentum if you just get bat on ball and it just trickles away to to the
Yeah.
boundary. As you know, and for those who don't know, actually, Trent Bridge originally started out with the square being on the other side. So the way we see it now is not what it used to be. It used to be perpendicular. So
Yeah.
that just goes to show that actually the boundaries are so small that it doesn't matter whether you have
Yeah.
the center, the square, horizontal or vertical.
Yeah.
The dimensions are almost the same, right? So yeah, I think they changed. I can't remember when it was, in the 90s or early 2000s, where they realized that the dimensions were ever so slightly more favorable if you just switched, like rotated the square effectively
Oh wow.
90 degrees. Yeah. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So previously the pavilion
Yeah.
was actually side on to the
Yeah.
center. Now it's front
It's
on.
fun. On.
So I mean, it's a tiny ground, and look, that does help with scoring,
Yeah.
especially in today's form of Test cricket. So
Yeah.
there is just a bit of that, right? It's not that. That's why it's not that common a Test ground anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it got a test, and look, it was a good game.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, at the end of the day, it's 400 versus 400 versus 400. And you still end up getting a result. It wasn't like a dead
Exactly, that's
400.
right.
So that's the
Exactly.
most important thing. And partly, obviously, England's baseball approach, or which only comes up against weaker opposition in certain conditions. But still, I think it does make a big difference. I think after a lot of debates about balance between bat and ball, it was good to see runs being scored, but still we had a result, right? I mean, we've seen dead pitches in Faisalabad or Rawalpindi or whatever. We've had 500 versus 500, but then it ends up being I mean, Pakistan still end up making a game of it by messing it up in the last session, but other teams don't, right? So, so it was good to see a result. All at the
We
end, it
said
was.
we wouldn't bring Pakistan into this one, but here we go.
We can't help ourselves. We have to. We
We
have
can't
to.
help ourselves. Right?
But yeah, it's just taking a step back in the series. Jimmy Anderson played his last Test match, which was the first match of the
Yeah.
series, fittingly at Lords. He did get a few wickets, got a zero not out, I think, in the innings that he got the chance to bat in, which is typical of Jimmy Anderson. But I think it did spark it a bit. Obviously, you've got the recency bias and the nostalgia. He's 700 odd wickets. Uh, the only fast bowler to do that. Only one of three bowlers to ever do that, or four. Was it three? Anyways, uh, so I mean, commendable results. But is it also the fact that he played so much Test cricket, most of it at home at the
So
end of it?
before we go into that, I think
Yeah,
just a comment on England's approach, right? It's almost
yeah,
ruthless, right? They
yeah,
almost shove this retirement down his throat, right? In other teams, you'd have this sort of player power culture where with a player as legendary, of that legendary status, can choose when he wants to
yeah,
retire. Now, I have to say I'm on the fence here. I definitely applaud that no one in that setup has player power. Definitely applaud it.
yeah,
But I do think some sort of flexibility should have been provided given how close he was to the next highest wicket taker, Shane Warne, right? He was what, 700? He,
yeah,
he he didn't have many more. I think he had 9 wickets more to get.
yeah.
At least give him the series. Like now, absolutely make him retire after he gets that milestone, right? I 100% agree. There's no player power, but he's at 700. He is in the bowling form of his life.
Five
It's
five
not
wickets
like
actually. It ended up being 5 wickets because he got seven. He got three in the last four in the last match, right?
oh
So
yes, yeah. So he's
seven
five
o
wickets. I
four
mean,
versus
literally one
709.
haul away, really. It's one haul away, as you say. It's and look, if it were that Jimmy Anderson was bowling really badly and
Yeah,
he was dragging the team down, fully understand. But he's not. He's not at
exactly.
all, right?
Yeah,
Like you look. I do think sometimes ruthlessness grabs headlines, and we all sit and we applaud and all that. But
yeah,
sometimes you just have to have a bit of pragmatism here. You can be
yeah,
ruthless. You can say that the team is always superior to the individual, but yet leave a bit of, as we say in Urdu, gunjaish, which is effectively a bit of room, of flexibility, given how
Yeah.
close he is to the milestone, right? You lose
Yeah.
nothing, but yet you give, it's almost like giving, and look, Jimmy Anderson has earned it, right? You just give him, it's almost like a tribute to him, say, you know what, you earned it.
Yeah.
You have the next couple of games to get that record. You deserve it. You've been a loyal servant to England cricket, but
Yeah.
then that's it. And I
I
think
don't
he
know.
would have
Yeah.
accepted it.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe part of it was it Jimmy as well saying that? I know there's some noise in the media around how this was kind of forced upon him, and maybe that's true, but also maybe there was a sense in Jimmy himself where he said, okay, I'd want to finish it at Lords on his own terms. Maybe that was part of it as well. We wanted to play.
I don't think so, because he was quite honestly saying that,
Yeah.
it's bittersweet, it's tough pill to swallow. He thinks he's bowling as good as ever. Like, think about it logically, right? If you gave I love Lords, but if
Yeah.
you gave someone the option of surpassing Shane Warne in the highest wickets tally and going down in history as perhaps, I mean, it's not going to be over, like, surpassed for a
Yeah.
very long time, given how the volume of T20 cricket and
Yeah.
franchise cricket relative to Tests. But, I mean, this guy, yes, he's number 3, he could be number 2. And so
Yeah.
what if he just retired Lords, man? He can retire the
True.
Oval. Oh, anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
But coming on to the bigger point in hand. Look, Jimmy Anderson has to go down as one of, in my opinion, the most misunderstood fast bowler. So I've delayed answering underrated versus overrated, because I think that's one that we've just tried
Yeah.
suss out a little. But the key point is misunderstood. For a long time, Jimmy Anderson was on the sidelines, right?
Yeah.
The reason he is not given that legendary status is because in a lot of the legendary moments of English cricket, 2004 Ashes, or 2005 Ashes, you've got 2009, 10 T20 World Cup, 2019 ODI World Cup. Jimmy Anderson doesn't feature in any of them.
2012 in India series. I think that's the only one maybe he was in.
2012 India, very good point. And then 2022 T20 World Cup, obviously doesn't play, but right. So he wasn't there for a lot of these big iconic moments, especially the
Yeah.
2005 Ashes, where he was on the sidelines, right? He was still fairly new. So
Yeah.
because of that, you form, you almost form reputations based on those moments. There's so many players who are overrated for those, because they've excelled in those particular moments that are remembered more than the consistency of their careers. Jimmy Anderson's
Yeah.
the other way around, right?
Yeah.
That's one. And the second point is, for a long time, people thought, oh, he's only good in English conditions. He's only good in English conditions. He's only good when the ball is swinging on the Duke's
Clouderson.
ball and all that. But you open up his record, the difference between his bowling averages, whether he's playing at home or away,
Yeah.
is not very
Yeah.
significant.
Ironically, one of the worst, like, again, averages wise, his kind of worst averages in South Africa and Australia,
Exactly.
where, look, Australia, I get it, maybe he didn't have the pace, but South Africa, where it's meant to help swing and seam, it's not like he had an exceptional record there, but it wasn't that bad. It was like 34, 35 averages. That's not bad for like one country, and I think one of the things that we do have to remember, I think there was a big shift in the first 7, 8 years, I think, where his overall average was like early 30s, to the last, say, 10 years since 2015 or 16, where his career like skyrocketed. So that's a big difference as well, whereas his averages and that's kind of had an overall average impact on his average, right? That's why it's still like 26 and a half at the end of his career, which is
Yeah.
not that bad.
No, it's not bad at all. And in fact, you mentioned Australia. Look, Australia, I know there's pace and bounce, but it's actually
Yeah.
very batting friendly, because
Yeah.
once you get used to the bounce and that pace, the ball comes onto the bat quite nicely. South Africa and New Zealand are known to be the toughest, South Africa in particular, because of the extra
Yeah.
bounce. So that's very surprising. But again, the English media conscious, the consciousness starts and ends with Australia, right?
Yeah.
So when everyone brings up the away test record, the only real stat they bring up is Australia, because nothing else really matters, right? To a vast majority of the English press. So because Jimmy Anderson hasn't excelled in Australia, means that some people forget how good he was.
Yeah.
On the flip side, if he was really, really exceptional in Australia but ordinary everywhere else, he'd probably be remembered in a better light. It's same as India, Pakistan. Sometimes that the overemphasis on one team and one series can really cloud things.
Yeah.
Right.
At the
But
end, yeah. At the end of the day, if you look at these, the Australian fast bowlers, they are regarded very highly, the likes of Brett Lee and Mitchell Johnson and all, But if you look at statistically, Anderson's stats are significantly better than them. They're both averaging like 30 or 29 or 30, right? So Anderson is significantly better than them overall. So it's also a perception thing. Maybe it's just because it's Anderson and that. But yeah.
what does that mean? I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah.
It's Anderson. The thought that comes to mind when you say there is a medium pace textbook bowler who doesn't do anything out of the ordinary. He does the basics right. Boring. Right. That's the words that come to mind. Right?
And also, I think, sorry, just to cut, I think part of it is also the point you mentioned around Test cricket, right? That's been his bread and butter for the last 15 years. And that's kind of it, right? Where
yeah, one-dimensional. Maybe you can add that to the list as well. Right. Look, and to some extent, I can agree that he is not an all-format great, right? He isn't.
Yeah.
And because of that, his reputation and his sort of legacy is slightly diluted.
Yeah.
But having said that, it's not diluted by much because Test cricket is the pinnacle, right? It is the pinnacle. And Jimmy Anderson has done brilliantly. Like, I do believe, this whole volume concept is nonsense because there is a premium to longevity. Exactly. It's the same reason Wasim Akram is better than Waqar Younis. Now, anyone can come here and tell me, that Wasim's record is better. It's only better because he had greater longevity. Waqar Younis at his prime was better than Wasim at his prime. But Waqar's prime lasted for a very short while because of injury.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. I think it lasted, 1.5 years, 2 years, and then he got severely injured, and then he just became a shadow of himself, right? And so longevity matters, right?
Yeah. It's the same as Tendulkar in batting, right? So
thank you. Exactly that. Right? For some reason with bowling, you sometimes think it's about moments rather than the length of time. It's those particular moments that get cast in your minds. But to be honest with you, at 40 years of age, he's 42, I can't remember now. He's coming in 700 wickets. Like, yes, is he in the all-time great tests great list alongside Wasim Akram, Glenn McGrath, Dennis Lilly,
Ambrose,
Malcolm Marshall? Absolutely, right? Yeah. He may not have the pace, right? That's another reason. Barring Glenn McGrath, all these guys had, one level up on pace. But in fact, it's even more impressive that a guy who didn't have much by way of natural speed, all these things, still got 700 wickets. That means he adapted really well. He was really intelligent. He always bowled to batters' weaknesses. And he was highly skilled.
I've got a mischievous question now. I think we should have a bit of fun here. Would you rather have Jimmy Anderson or Shoaib Akhtar?
Now, you see, it depends on the composition of the team. Well, so it's a fair question. And I think I have to really just put my bias aside and say, if I had to choose between the two, and you told me the conditions were, had something in it for batting and bowling, I would go Jimmy Anderson. But my first question is, which role are you filling? You have 3 pacers and a spinner normally, right? And then an all-rounder. So your 3 pacers, if you are telling me that you have Glenn McGrath and Wasim Akram at the other end, I would go Shoaib Akhtar because I would want someone with express pace. But if you tell me that you have Dennis Lilly and you have Malcolm Marshall, then it's a no-brainer in Jimmy Anderson. I think the roles are different here, right? Here you have one new ball specialist who swings the ball and gets you in. He's like, if you ask me Muhammad Asif or Jimmy Anderson, now that's a tough one but I would have to go Jimmy Anderson because of longevity. Even though I think Asif was probably the most skilled bowler in the generation that he played in, and he could have gone down as an all-time great. In fact, many people still think he is the toughest bowler they ever faced. But 30 test matches versus 180,
Yeah. I mean,
so 180. I can't remember.
145.
145. Okay, maybe not
For
185.
for a fast bowler, that's amazing.
Okay,
I
that's
mean,
amazing.
yeah. And I mean, now that we've brought up Pakistan as a topic, you can't forget and give credit to James Anderson without crediting the Pakistan team, because of course it's the Pakistan team that gave him the launching pad. Was it in 2003 when they gifted him a hat trick?
Oh, yes, I remember that at the Oval. I remember the Oval. It was numbers 8, 9, and 10.
Razak? No, 10, 9, 10, 11. Razak, Akhtar, and
No, yeah,
Sameem,
8,
right?
9, and 10. The
The
wickets
last
were 8,
three.
9, and 10, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was Razak. It
Akhtar
was
and
Sami.
Sami. Yeah, Sami
Yeah,
was a hat trick,
Sami.
but yeah.
Yeah,
But
Sami was the
yeah,
last one.
and ironically, it was white ball cricket. It was a one-day match, but it was Pakistan that put him on the map of
Yeah,
world
and look,
cricket.
I have to say, like, even in that match, I think it also was he was one of like 3 bowlers in ODI cricket at the
Yeah,
time, was 3 or 4, to have got a wicket off his first ball. Imran
yeah.
Nazir. Imran Nazir's random hack that got out, as he so often does. So that one game at the Oval got him so many accolades. But classic Pakistan, right? I mean, I think Jimmy Anderson has Pakistan to thank. I mean, even if you look at his record in the UAE, because of the Misbah era,
Yeah.
you had dot 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 dot. His average is probably lower in the UAE, and 6 Test matches. Yes, okay, not many, but still quite a lot. Is lower than his average in England.
It is true. And it's also the average, yes, but it's also his economy rate is ridiculous. It's like 2 or even less than 2. That's like
And for a bowler who I have to say didn't have the most variety in the world, extremely
yeah,
intelligent,
yeah.
extremely intelligent. No 2 balls was the same, but within his repertoire, he didn't have a really strong slow ball or a bouncer. He didn't have the pace for some of that, and
Yeah.
Yorker, which is why he didn't excel in limited overs cricket.
Yeah.
So you'd expect, yes, he'd pick up wickets, but you expect more than 1 run or 2 runs and over. I mean, come
Yeah.
on, like
Yeah. I
on
mean,
flat
Pakistan
decks in
were
the
yeah,
UAE. But
yeah. I remember England, they came in all these spinners, and there used to be Anderson and Broad going for like nothing in 10 overs. And it's actually the spinners who ended up getting hit around.
wow,
And this is
yeah,
this is a
the
series, and
missed few
Pakistan
days.
won Pakistan won 3-0 in 2012. And I think they won 2-0 or 3-0 as well in
2-0,
2015.
2-0,
Yeah.
2-0 in 2015.
When Shoaib Malik
Yeah.
got 245 and something like that, right? And still
And then
like
he retired shortly after, as you do when you're from Pakistan,
yeah.
and your Twitter game is so strong. But
Yeah. So
anyways, but then look, there you have it.
yeah, look, what do you guys think? I'm sure a lot of I don't know, for some reason, and again, this is just me saying it, us kind of Asian descent people are more biased against Anderson, but I think, in the English media, there's a bit more fandom, but look, let us know
But I
what you
will
think.
say one thing, and it may be because my love for pace reigns supreme,
Yeah.
but I think Stuart Broad is better than Jimmy Anderson. I've said it. In my all-time England greats, I think Stuart Broad is slightly better than Jimmy Anderson from a skill perspective. I've said it.
That's a conversation for another day.
That's
when you mention moments, I do agree with that, because you remember Broad and his moments, but that's what Broad is famous for. I used to have these crazy sessions with 4, 5, 6 wickets in one session. So that's kind of what he's been known for. But he's probably had tougher spells as well.
6 sixes, 6 sixes,
So
5 sixes. But yes,
exactly.
I agree with that. Maybe Jimmy Anderson for longevity and consistency.
Yeah. But yeah, there you have it. Let us know what you think about Jimmy Anderson. Was he overrated, underrated, fairly rated?
Okay.
All right. We'll have more content coming your way, but thank you for watching.
Thank you.